Season's greetings and welcome to my end of year 2023 Ask Me Anything vlog. Honestly, I did not expect this many questions. I've had hundreds. I think it's well over 300 questions from you guys. I'm not going to go through all of them, but I'm going to get through as many of them as I can. But before we get started, guys, thank you so much for the support you've given me this year. 2023 has been absolutely amazing. I've traveled all over the world, from America, Brazil, Europe, South Africa. It's been a fantastic time. It's only thanks to the support of you guys. If it wasn't for you watching my videos and supporting what I do, I wouldn't be able to do it. So thank you. Thanks very much for that. It's been an absolute pleasure and an honor this year to be able to share it with you guys. And hopefully I can answer some of your questions with this Q&A. So let's get started. Question here is popping up on the top of my comments from K Factor. He's a US airsoft. He's got a very cool channel. He makes some really nice content himself, worth checking him out. And he asks, where in the world would you love to play a game of airsoft? Vegas, question mark. One of the most amazing things I love about what I do and the privilege I have is that I am able to travel. I'm very fortunate to be able to get around, and I get invitations to some amazing places. Having played in South Africa, as far as Brazil, America, all over Europe, places I find most exciting are when there's some abandoned buildings, places got a little bit of history. For example, in Rio de Janeiro, there's a completely abandoned sector of the city there. It's an incredibly exciting place to play. Or something like the Bear's Head, which is a Napoleonic fortress, which just oozes history. This year I haven't got a lot of plans, but my first port of call, I'm actually heading over to Puerto Rico for an event in January. That's at the top of my list. There's an abandoned factory complex there, which is overgrown in a jungle. And that's the kind of place I love to go to, abandoned places with overgrown by nature. Daniel Atkins says, are you a good or bad thing for airsoft in general? Good points. You raise the profile of airsoft. Yeah, sure, I have a lot of views and get more people into it. Bad points. Having to tell people that headshot isn't norm and generally not well received within the hobby. Well, headshots are the norm. If you're going to play airsoft, you're going to get hit in the head. And he says they are generally not received well in the hobby. They are generally very well received when people get hit in the head and they say hit and they go back to their respawn. The only people who moan about headshots are a very small minority that are very, very loud in Facebook groups. It never was an issue before Facebook groups. It's only an issue in recent years when airsoft justice warriors make a big deal about it. And it's originated from the UK, probably because my videos are based in the UK. So if someone's getting into airsoft and they see people moaning about it online, the hardest thing is you have to tell them headshots are the norm. It is going to happen, and you have to take responsibility for your own personal protection. Wear good eye pro and face pro. Get on with the game. Airsoft Sniper Brazil. What kind of exercises do you recommend for a person over 40 to play airsoft and improve their game and don't feel like trash at the end of the game? Personally, I'm in my 40s and I do yoga. I think yoga is a fantastic exercise, a tune-up. It keeps your body supple, builds strength and flexibility. I recommend yoga. I do yoga. I do private classes 2-3 times a week, and I would thoroughly recommend getting involved in yoga. It's not the kind of hippie, girly incense and chanting kind of stuff. This is I do a kind of yoga called Ashtanga, which builds strength, flexibility, and it's yeah, I find it very, very useful. Cool Darth Vader asks, what is my favourite moment in airsoft and my funny moments? My favourite moments, probably my favourite moments this year was Brazil, playing at the Fabrica, which is an abandoned factory complex over almost 300 acres of abandoned city. Just walking around that place, you're filled with this sense of amazement that something like that exists in the world. But having a great field does not mean great games of airsoft. And you can travel somewhere, you can travel to the most amazing places, but if the players and the organisation is not up to scratch, you're never going to have a good time. So for me, the most important thing is the players, and that's one of the reasons I keep going back to Phoenix Airsoft, is because I love the way to run and the player base there and the relaxed atmosphere. So I have many, many memories from Phoenix Airsoft, but in terms of places, I would say Fabrica in Brazil, and it's yeah, special place. This is an interesting one. Bilbo, he thinks it goes without saying you're one of the most controversial figures in the airsoft space. How do you think that this has affected your airsoft career, and does the constant negative attention ever affect your personal life or mental health? So, controversial in that I have opinions. I speak my mind, or I always have done, and I think it's important that everyone does that in life. I don't see why we should allow certain people to push their ideas without pushback. The idea that certain fields want to ban headshots, the idea that certain fields want to limit the weight of BBs. We should all speak out and express our opinions on that. And how does it affect my career? I don't know, mate. I don't know on that one. I just do what I believe is true in my life. I always will do until the day I die. I won't ever stop that. How it affects me? Who knows? It's an adventure, innit? Life's an adventure. And as long as you're speaking your truth and you're true to yourself, the adventure should be a good one, hopefully. Thatch Softer asked. Now, Thatch Softer is actually Ryan. He's years ago, I used to play regularly at a place called ASGB down in Essex. ASGB is it's a very small field, but I had so many good times there. It used to be an abandoned sort of farm, and there's abandoned vehicles. Some of my really old videos, if we go back to maybe 2016, you'll find videos of me playing there. And Ryan Thatch Softer here, who's asked this question, was the marshal. They had some really great times, some amazing games down there with him. And he asked, could it be time to be more calm and humble than competitive and at times confrontational as a result? Reflection section. Well, Ryan will tell you, I've always been very competitive, no matter what I've done in my life, whether it was at school, at university, in any sports I've played, in the music scene, in the city. I've always been very, very competitive in everything I've done. I've always wanted to be the best at what I do and do the best for myself and be the best I can. And that goes the same with on the airsoft field. If you play the style I play, it's not the sort of thing you can do, and you can't just play at the level that I play at. Doing ghillie sniping, you're right on the edge of success and failure. You have to be very aware of what's going on around you. You have to make all your shots count, and you have to be pushing yourself to the best of your abilities to be able to pull off what I pull off. So is it time to be calmer, less competitive? Certainly not. I love what I do, and my adrenaline is always flowing when I'm playing the game, and I will always push myself to be the best that I can. And like any competitive sportsman, often the adrenaline is high, and if something happens, it's very easy. Like in soccer, in rugby, when there's hard tackles, when things happen and the adrenaline is flowing, sometimes that comes out in the form of raised emotions, and that's never going to stop as long as I'm playing at the highest level of my ability. There's plenty of YouTube channels with guys who just wander along, apologizing when they shoot each other and tiptoeing around, but I think when you watch those channels, the level of play is not the same intensity that occurs in my gameplays, in my opinion. Ryan, I'm not going to stop, mate. The day I stop being competitive will be the day the standard of my play drops, and I don't think anyone wants to see that. Ascension Research asked a cool question here. If you could change one thing about airsoft, including everything, players, site rules, etc., no questions asked, what would you change? Having travelled, this is a great question. Having travelled over to lots of different countries across the world and played airsoft with all kinds of different people, from very, very young scenes to very mature scenes that have been around for decades. The one thing that I have noticed is the higher the power levels, the better the level of play seems to be. So if I could change anything in the UK, it would be to have higher power levels. 2.3 joules, I think, is a nice level for mid-range engagements, but for snipers, I think 3.5 joules is what I would love to see for bolt actions. Gives them that little bit extra range. Amrox CQB, how do I cope with so much negativity towards me? I don't see it, mate. I don't hang out in Facebook groups. I don't go on Reddit. I might occasionally, someone might send me a screenshot or send me a link to something. I'll go and have a look in there. But honestly, these idiots are useful for me. They spread the word of my channel, and at times it's useful to prod them and poke them and get them to help send the videos viral. But what can I do? It's up to them, mate. Everybody is entitled to an opinion. Let them crack on. I enjoy what I do. I enjoy playing the game, and I enjoy making videos, and I'm truly grateful. Like, I've had more than 500 million people watch my videos this year. I've had more than 500 million people watch them last year. For the last 2 years in a row, I've been the most watched airsoft YouTuber. Not just the most watched, I've had more views on my channel than all the other major YouTubers put together. There may well be a bunch of negative people who are outspoken, but there's a hell of a lot more people who watch and enjoy my content. So crack on, mate. That's all I can do. Maluda the Ghost asks, I'm one of the thousands where we started and fell in love with airsoft through your videos. So I'm curious to know if I had any early on as a role model, or even motivated me to start airsoft, etc. I started airsoft by pure accident, to be honest. it was pure accident. I started and I fell in love with it pretty quickly after playing with it in a friend's garden. After we confiscated some BB guns from his kids and used them on ourselves, and it was great fun. But in terms of inspirations for ghillie sniping, I've always enjoyed ghillie sniping, but those early YouTube videos by Rippercon many years ago, he still does kind of kit reviews, but in the early days when I think he was a teenager, him and his mates used to do ghillie meetings. And if you go back and you look at Rippercon's very early videos, and they're making ghillie suits, and they got these amazing, I think they're Finnish or Norwegian accents, and they're sneaking about, and they're doing training videos. That was a big inspiration for me, I think, at the time. Obviously the original scope cameras, when you look back now, there wasn't much of a story. There was just this wow factor of a scope camera, and I was always inspired by that. I think we all were when we watched those videos back then. It was incredible. The very early Novridge videos were absolutely sensational, weren't they? The early ones, just before even before he put hit markers on, he was the first person to start telling really good stories about what was happening on the day when he'd go out and play in the snow with sniper buddy Fabby. Yeah, so those early Novridge videos, Varvam, there's their hide video. There's a guy who did this hide video in America. At the time, it was like mind-blowing. This guy must have dug this hide and was watching over this enemy spawn point. That still inspires me today. I still think that's some of the best scope camera footage. The quality, oddly enough, the quality of footage back in those days was high because they used to have these big video cameras on top of their guns, whereas now we're using the run cams and the Fox ears, and the quality is good, but it's not as good as those high quality video cameras they used to use in those days. But I can't imagine having one of those on my gun and having to lug that thing about. Twin Tune says, has sniping brought patience, discipline to my daily life outside of airsoft? No, not really. But going back to the question earlier about what I do to keep myself fit, I do yoga. So I'm in for a little bit of mindfulness and yoga, and that yoga teaches you to connect your breath with your movements, which I bring into my airsoft game and my sniping. And when I'm playing the game and I'm really in the zone, my movement and my breath is as one, and firing the gun and cocking it, it's all in one. And I bring that into my normal life so much. So much of my yoga practice gets brought into normal life as well as airsoft. But I wouldn't say airsoft brings patience and discipline, but it does bring fitness. And I couldn't imagine what my life would be without playing airsoft. I'm quite a competitive person. I need competition to do cardio. I find running boring, but with airsoft, it gets us out, it gets the cardio going. So for me, it's a great, airsoft's not just a great game, is it? It's a fantastic place to hang out with friends. You've got all the gadgets and the gizmos and the toys to play with, but it also keeps us fit. Getting out there most weekends, I probably play 4 weekends out of 5. It keeps the fitness levels up, and I think it's an amazing hobby, and I enjoy that as much as the playing, I think. Cool Sign Rebs asks, when considering your ghillie suit when designing crafting process, what factors do you choose that makes a difference in your invisibility gameplay style, and why are they a factor? That's an interesting question, especially now, because in a couple of weeks I'm heading halfway across the world to play at a milsim at a field I've never played before. So the first thing you've got to consider is the environment. Is it going to be hot? Is it going to be cold? Wet, damp, humid? Sunny, those sort of things. Where I'm going to be going is going to be pretty warm, so it's not going to be a super full suit. It's going to be quite a lightweight suit. You then got to look at the colours. Is it going to be predominantly green, like in the environment I'm playing in here? I would probably have a basic tan or brown suit as a base with some green added. But if I'm going to play in a jungle in South America, it's probably going to be predominantly a green base and maybe add some brown to it. Am I going to be playing for long periods of time? Am I going to be needing lots of pouches? And that kind of thing. Is it going to be an urban area? Do I need to have access to my hips for pouches here as well as on my chest? All of these kind of things. It's a really big question. But breathability, being lightweight, and being able to be as mobile as I'm going to need to be in that environment. If the environment's going to be really hot and sticky, the last thing I want to do is have a heavily crafted suit. I want to have a mostly mesh showing through with breathability. If I'm going to be playing in winter months with loads of dead mushy leaves on the floor, I'm going to have a heavily crafted suit. It's going to be very, very dependent on the environment I'm going to be playing in. Costa Stefano asks, what meaning does airsoft have in my life in the term sniper? It means the world to me. I love doing it. I think it's very important to have passion in your life, and I'm very fortunate that I'm able to do it 7 days a week, from going out playing it on a Saturday or Sunday, or Saturday and Sunday, recording it, getting back, sorting kit out, editing the videos, processing it, and I might only have 1 day off when I'm not thinking about airsoft in a week. So for me, it's a full-time full-time passion and a job, and I'm very fortunate to have that, because I know not many people have the opportunity in their life to follow their passion and to do it full-time. It's too easy in life, isn't it, to get stuck in a job that you perhaps don't love, and when you have a paycheck that pays the mortgage, and you've got debt, and you've got cars, and you've got a family, and you get tired of these golden handcuffs in a job that maybe you're not passionate about, and it takes over your life, and before you know it, you're 50, 60, 70 years old, and you're looking to retire, and you haven't got your full fitness anymore, and life's short. So I'm very fortunate that I can do this, and if you are able to follow your passion, you've got one life, and I think everybody should give it a go at some point. Otherwise you get to being 70, 80 years old, you look back with regrets. I know if I passed away tomorrow, I have had no regrets in my life. That's what airsoft means to me. It means living my life with no regrets. Cool Sign Lance says, my favourite video of yours is the pissing people off from the highest building video. It's one of my favourites as well. Really, it was a lot of fun to make that one. How did I find my niche in airsoft sniping? I've always loved ghillie sniping, mate. In the game of airsoft, if your enemy can't see you, they can't hit you. I've always had that ethos that as long as I'm invisible and the enemy can't see me, I'm going to have the upper hand. I'm going to win the game. And being this competitive guy that I am, I want to win, and that's where ghillie sniping came from. I think if you can remain invisible, have the edge, upper hand on your opponents so they don't know where you are, you're going to win the game, and that's where my niche came from. Preston Davis asks, what was the first ghillie suit I ever had, and do I still have it? I don't have it. I think I actually gave it away to a kid a few years ago, but the first ghillie suit I had was a Webtex cloak, which I bought almost within 2 weeks of me firing my first airsoft gun, and I crafted it using old Hessian techniques, very basic techniques, and used to stuff it in an actual veg. And that was the first ghillie suit I ever had. Andrew Garside asked, what was the defining moment in my career that I look back on? I think it was the realization that it doesn't matter how good the content is of the video, if the cover and the title and the clickbait isn't right, no one's going to press on it and watch it. It was that realization that you need to have some kind of clickbait. Now, when I say clickbait, I don't mean the old style of definition where what the title says is not what's on the inside. I think it was a realization that something's got to grab people's attention. They've got to click on it. And then I think when my channel really blew up was this realization that using short form videos, introductions to a video, or trailers for a video combined with titles and thumbnails, I could provoke people to form an opinion before even watching the video. So I kind of had this mantra, provoke it in the short form before proving wrong in the long form. There's nothing wrong been done, but the title suggests that something wrong is happening. So it's I guess the defining moment was finding that ability to antagonize opinion and antagonize people into wanting to click and watch my videos, if that makes sense. Trevster asked, what was the process like for getting sponsored? I don't like sponsorship on my channel as such. I think sponsorship's a really useful way to support channels. Don't get me wrong. I think it's very important. I think there's a real lack of sponsorship from retailers for content creators. I think there's a real lack of sponsorship from product makers to the content creators. So what process does it happen? Well, they just reach out to you. These companies should and do just reach out to you if you're creating good content. That's within the airsoft industry. I also think one of the biggest problems within the airsoft industry for sponsorship is that if you're a retailer and you want to sponsor a content creator, or you work with a content creator and you sponsor them, they're using stuff that other retailers are using. So you're supporting a content creator and other retailers are benefiting. I think sponsorship within the airsoft industry should come from distributors and from the companies, and they're not doing that. And I think the big disrupting force at the moment is the Novridge company, which is bringing all of these influencers in under its umbrella, and the other airsoft companies. I don't know, for example, Tokyo Marui really must be missing a trick here. Their market share on sniping, for example, has completely collapsed. They haven't listened to the worldwide community when it comes to bolt actions. They haven't produced the right stuff for the market outside of Japan, and they certainly haven't supported content creators. So without the industry changing, a lot of content creators are very limited by what sponsorship they can get within the airsoft industry. But beyond the airsoft industry, once you start to reach a certain size of channel, like mine, for example, where I've had in total like almost 1.5 billion views on my YouTube alone, adding Facebook, etc. on top of that, you then get interest from outside of the airsoft industry. That's when things get interesting. It's a big question. It's a very personal thing for individual channels. But in terms of what's the process like, the process is produce really cool content, and the companies will then come and reach out to you and contact you to do it at that point, and you set your price. Sam Ritchie asks, what is the process for taking airsoft replicas on planes? A lot depends where you're going to, mate, how you're going there. For example, if I'm going to Europe, I'll take the ferry. Nothing wrong with that at all. Put it in the boot in a case. If you get stopped at customs on the way to the ferry or on the way to the tunnel, you just say, oh, guys, I've got airsoft toys in the boot, and you show them the event you're going to. As long as you've got a reason to have them in your car when you go abroad, it's not an issue. On planes, a lot depends on where you're going from and to. If it's not illegal in the country you're leaving and it's not illegal in the country you're going to, it's not illegal to travel there. However, some airlines have terms and conditions. Check the terms and conditions of the airline. If they catch you with it, they may not let you on the plane, for example. Having said that, I have taken plastic Tokyo pistols, taken to pieces, and put it in my hold luggage without declaring it. It's not illegal. I've even had, I was stopped at Stansted Airport before COVID, like 2019, I think it was. And a firearms officer questioned me because I had MK23 parts in my hand luggage and some BBs. And I was pulled aside by customs and I had to be questioned by firearms. The firearms guys came. Fortunately, he recognised me and he watched my channel, and he said that the guy at customs had been a job's worth. It's not illegal. He got me through, got me onto the plane, and he just said to me, look, do me a favour. Next time you take anything like this, put it in the hold luggage. So it's not illegal. You may get issues. If you're unsure, declare it to the airline. Pay the sporting goods cost, which could be £200-300. So it's not cheap. Maybe buy guns when you're out there, which is what I've got. I've got guns in Spain. I've got guns in Brazil. Got guns I can use in America, either borrow friends or actually have guns out there. Victor Hurlin asks, what is the worst map I've played at? I don't think I've played anywhere really bad, I don't think, because I don't generally go to places that are bad. But I would say the worst airsoft field, worst organiser, is First and Only Airsoft in the UK. They pull the most woke nonsense, and the guy who runs it is an absolute bully. And there's horror stories of that place where people have turned up, they've travelled a long way to go to their events. They go through chrono, they pass the chrono, no problem, and then they do random chronos with different chronos out on the field, and they're like 1 FPS over, and then these people are told they can't play for the rest of the day. They're not even allowed to change guns, and they're sent home, and they might have travelled like 2-3 hours to get there. So not only that, that's the field that bans headshots, they ban heavyweight BBs, they do all kinds of nonsense at their place. So they're the worst organiser by far. They're also the organiser who pushes fields to sign up to this list they've got, trying to get them to ban me from their events, even though I've never been there, for doing headshots or whatever excuses they come up with for banning me. So yeah, terrible organiser. JD Greenos, what's the most profound lesson I've learned through my years as an airsoft, a content creator and a businessman? Attention is the #1 currency. You need attention to do business. I would much rather have, you can do anything you want as long as you've got attention on you. Even if you've got huge amounts of money, attention is the #1 currency for building a business in the modern economy. Thomas Mullany asks, Spring or HPA for bolt action sniper rifle? Looking to get into it. Spring. Many years ago, HPA used to be able to give us quieter guns, but nowadays with heavy pistons, the Sniper Mechanics Wasp piston as an example, it allows us to have really silent guns with very long range, being able to lift super heavy sniper BBs. So HPA in bolt actions now is probably a little bit redundant unless you're playing somewhere with very high power limits at, I don't know, 3 or 4 joules. There's an event I want to go to in 2024 that has a 4 joule sniper limit, and HPA will be pretty much a necessity for playing in those kind of limits. Kurt asks, what are my top 5 or 10 must-haves for any sniper loadout? Let's do a few of those. Top necessities: a good sidearm, a good, hopefully quiet sidearm, but not necessarily, but a good sidearm, probably an MK23, if not a gas blowback, and it's got to be reliable. So a Tokyo Marui, I will always say Tokyo Marui pistol. It allows you, the gas blowback pistol is the best way to quickly get shots onto a target if you're taken by surprise. A good bolt action, obviously a good bolt action is also necessary. Good footwear, lightweight footwear, avoid heavy boots, something that's going to give you the ability to feel the ground underneath you, and colours that match the environment you're going to be playing in. You don't even have to have a big ghillie suit, just something to perhaps disrupt your head and shoulder shape, and have colours that are going to match your environment, and then you can get involved and be very good at bolt action sniping. And you are going to have to fire from positions where you're not seen, so learning to be good at hiding and sneaking, because bolt action rifles, they do give you an advantage but not a huge advantage, and once you're spotted and they know your location, even a rental with a full auto with a high cap mag is going to eventually overpower you. There's not going to be much you can do about it. Oh dear, silly question. If you had to ride a dinosaur into an airsoft game, what kind would you turn into a prehistoric technical? Triceratops, why not? And Alexandra asks, since I've travelled a lot to play airsoft, what is the main difference between countries in terms of applying rules, attitude and gear used by players? And he thanks me for my amazing content. Thanks, Alexandra. So the main difference between countries, I think I touched on it earlier, the higher the power limits, it tends to be the better quality of game, less cheating. They tend to wear full face protection as well. They know what they're going to get into. I think when you play in places where power limits are a little bit lower, they seem to expect there to be no pain or no sting, and that can affect the level of player. I think the wrong kind of attitude comes into it. Another thing I've noticed from traveling is the younger the scene. So, for example, in a place like South Africa, where it's a relatively young scene, the players just have a better attitude. They seem to want to shoot each other. They seem to want to be shot, and they enjoy the process of being shot. The same in Brazil. The Brazilian players, a lot of them, the power limits are so much higher there. A lot of, I guess, questionable things happen at the Brazilian field, like lack of chrono, for example. People just turn up with their guns and play, and you're asked what the power is on your gun, and you say it's about 3.5 joules. Oh, that's fine. As long as it's about 3.5 joules, you're fine. But a lot of those players are playing in bare chests, just shorts and iPro, and they get hit, and they get the welts and the bleeds, and they love it, and they oh my God, that was an amazing shot, and they appreciate that they've been hit. And maybe it comes from the kind of community they live in. Brazil has extreme poverty as well as wealth. A lot of these players live in the favelas, and they live in parts of Rio de Janeiro where there's perhaps an element of danger, and this is like a really big relief for them. So maybe what I'm trying to say is maybe certain parts of the world have a softer culture than others, and those places that are having this soft culture where people often want to play the victim, it creates a bad atmosphere at an airsoft game, because they want to complain when they're shot in the head, or they want to moan because they think someone's got a gun that's too hot. And I'm not saying it's right that people have hot guns, but when I was playing in Brazil, for example, and Turkey as well, there wasn't this strictness. There weren't people complaining about people using hot guns, and there were people there with guns which are surely a bit above the power limits. But there's no complaining about it. They just enjoy the game for what it is. And I prefer that. I prefer people who don't complain. That sort of attitude comes from societies where people are wrapped in cotton wool too much. And that's the big difference I see when traveling around the world. Communities that are not wrapped in cotton wool seem to have better, more competitive player bases. Logan Tucker asks, what is the best advice for improving your sniper skills in the off-season? When you're practicing shooting, and I do this a lot, when I'm outside and practicing shooting, don't just lean your gun on a table. Don't just put yourself in an easy shooting position and just tune the gun. Put yourself in a really awkward position. Lie in strange positions. Put yourself in positions where you might be curled up, where you might be, the gun is at a strange angle. You might be shooting like this, or you might be lying backwards and you have to look down towards your feet when firing. Put yourself in these awkward positions when practicing your shooting techniques. That's my tip on that one. Julian asks, what's the best approach in terms of dealing with whiny airsoft cheaters? We haven't had any of them here in my country, but he definitely would be interested in dealing with them if it happens. Greetings from the Philippines. Whiny airsoft cheaters, I've always thought, get them recorded on camera, turn them into clickbait, send them viral. It's a win-win for everybody. It's entertaining to watch, send the videos viral, and I think it's the best way of dealing with it personally. Often in terms of cheating, one thing you won't ever see me do is call someone a cheater on the field, unless I'm 100% sure. Like, unless it's right in front of me and it's happened in front of me and it's completely broken the game, and I've gone, dude, what the hell are you doing? But you won't see me taking long-range sniper shots accusing this person of cheating. That's because when you put your cameras on your gun, what you learn is that even if you think you've shot somebody, when you get back and you watch it on camera, so often the BB's clipped a little twig and flown off, or it's just flown just whiz past them, and they've ducked out the way, and you think you might have hit them, but it's only when you go back and watch it. And even sometimes you watch it on camera initially, you think you've hit them, and it's only when you stabilize the footage and slow it down, you see the BB has bounced off. So you've got to be very, very careful accusing people, and that's something you won't ever find me doing until they're caught on camera, by which stage I generally turn them into clickbait. That's the way I deal with it. Precious Nao has got a few questions. Blimey, Bosch. What's my most expensive airsoft gun? My most expensive airsoft gun is probably my Tokyo Marui AKM. Not just the gun itself, it's the externals that have been added to it, the GBB mags that go with it, the scope that's on it, everything that goes with it probably makes it my most expensive. 2, who is the most talented opponent you've encountered throughout the year? This year, tough question, but generally, when there's a bunch of my old sniper ops teammates meet up and we end up playing against each other, we often say, or any other skilled ghillie sniper, we often say it ends up being like us versus each other, and everyone else around us is like an NPC or robots, and we're only worried about the other ghillie snipers we're up against. So it's just quality, skilled ghillie snipers, I would say. Why did I decide to post online about my matches? I originally started doing it because I wanted to share what it's like to be a ghillie sniper, and I enjoyed the challenge of bringing up that sense of being the hunter, very, very quickly being turned into a hunted when you make a mistake, and I wanted to bring that experience onto camera to share with you guys. Why did I choose my nickname Kicking Mustang, and is there any backstory? The name Kicking Mustang is an old record I used to play. It's an old 1960s Texas Black American soul band, and they made one record as far as I know, Kicking Mustang, by the Kicking Mustangs, and I used to play it during my sets. And back in 2008 I started a YouTube channel, but it wasn't really as we know it now. It was just to post up videos of my club nights I promoted, and I didn't have a name for it. I just called it Kicking Mustang. And then when I started posting my airsoft videos in 2016, I wanted to start an YouTube channel to do it, and I couldn't be bothered to start a new channel. I thought, oh, I've already got one, I'll use that one, and it had the name Kicking Mustang. What is the best match of airsoft I've ever had? It was possibly the Milsim in Norway. The video, I'm only using MK23, and it's the video where I was lying down on the ground, I shot the guy in the chest, and he didn't take it, and then I shot him in the balls, and that video is very, very famous. But that actual game was amazing. It was over 2 days. I was just using MK23, stalking around with my old friend Brad. It was just the most amazing experience of playing out there in the green of this Norwegian forest. Incredible gameplay. I don't even think the video I captured of it doesn't really do it justice, but I do remember it being a very special time. Stefan asked, in a 5v5 battle, which 4 teammates would I want to compete with, and preferably against which 5 other players? In a 5v5 battle, if I was in a 5v5 battle, the people I would want to compete with, 4 of them would be from my American friends, Task Force Neptune or Midwest Development Group. Those guys are the best players I think I've ever played with. Highly competitive, highly skilled, very, very aggressive players, and incredibly skilled at CQB, and also very, very fit, able to move across the field very quickly, and aggressive and well drilled as teammates with amazing comms. You'd have to have a look at the video from Texas back in 2019, I think it was, to see what I'm talking about. But those guys, Midwest Development Group and Task Force Neptune, 4 of any of those guys would be my choice. Ian Boldy asked, how do I feel airsoft has changed since I started playing? Good and bad changes. The single worst thing that happened to airsoft was Facebook community groups. As good as they are for organising stuff and organising groups of people, the level of toxicity in those groups, I think it's incredibly damaging to the community. Certain people get voices and control who don't deserve to have it, and they shouldn't have such a big voice in these groups. And it's Facebook. People chatting shit online is the biggest issue in the airsoft community. And in terms of good changes, the single most important technological improvement in airsoft is heavyweight BBs. You go back 10 years ago, the heaviest BBs were like 0.29s, 0.3s maybe. Then they started getting some 0.36s, which were green. And then there were some 0.4s, which were grey. You couldn't see them fly. So when heavyweight white BBs came into airsoft for snipers like myself, completely changed the game. Once we could use those heavyweight BBs, the range has increased by probably 20 meters plus and much more accurate. So that's the biggest improvement. Kubi asks, honest question, why do you aim for the head even if it's not necessary? Kuba, when you play airsoft, mate, you've got to hit something, and you just shoot and you hit things, and it's as simple as that. And sometimes if I hit a head and I might have been aiming somewhere else, but if BB lands square in the head, in the middle of the forehead, I'm going to zoom it in, I'm going to stabilize the footage, I'm going to put the crosshairs exactly where it lands. If that offends you, unfortunate. I'm going to carry on playing the game how I play it. And so often as well, especially in the winter months. In winter months especially, I'm going to be aiming high, because a lot of people wearing heavy gear, plate carriers, mags all over them. I'm always going to aim high. And also, any field that has a gun hit doesn't count rule. 100% I'm aiming for the head. 100%. People carry their guns like this, and you shoot the midsection, it hits their gun, and they shout gun hit and run off. I'm not having it. I'm aiming for the head. Any field that has a gun hit don't count. I'm aiming for the head every single time. If it offends you, how I play the game, don't have to watch it. Simple as that. People need to stop moaning. Will Heath asks, what do I enjoy most about my job? It's weird calling it a job. I just do. I don't really. It doesn't feel like a job. But anyway, what do I enjoy most about my job? Airsoft in itself, video editing, creating new designs of ghillie suit, anything else. All of that, mate. All of it. All of the above. I love airsofting. You can probably tell by the way I play. I'm really passionate about it. I'm a very competitive person. But I also love editing. I love video editing. I love video editing. I love being able to put that across. I'm very proud of my success at doing that. I don't think, before I started doing that, I don't think anyone was doing it, especially not on a regular basis, putting across that style of play. Because look, let's be honest, that my style of play, if I put it out in real time, it's relatively boring. Like, there's a lot of sneaking, there's a lot of slow movement, and there's a lot of waiting often. Times I'll go out and there might be an hour or two before I get a kill sometimes, because you're sneaking into position. The recent gameplay I posted for More, where the title of the video is climbing up a tree and shooting people at their spawn point, that took me a good couple of hours, 2.5 hours or so, to get into that position. That was boring to watch, but to be able to share those moments that I'm in that position, and that gameplay as well, from that position, from the first shot to the last shot, that was spread over probably from about midday to, that's probably about 4 hours condensed down into, what, 9 minutes. To be able to do that and show you guys that in an exciting way, I get real buzz out of that. Probably as much as I do as playing the game. Harrison Birch asks, what do I think I'll be doing if I never got into airsoft? It's a great question, mate. I would be doing whatever I'm passionate about. Probably something to do with economics, probably something to do with markets, financial markets, I would imagine. Possibly cryptocurrency. But through my entire life, ever since I went to university, I've always done what I love doing. I've always followed my passion. And I think no matter what I'd be doing, I would be passionate about it. Trevor asked, what is my favourite event and place I played this year and why? Without a doubt, it was the Fabrica in Brazil, Rio de Janeiro. Mind-blowing environment, like playing in an urban jungle, 300 acres of abandoned city on the outskirts of Rio de Janeiro, and the community there. The community there was exceptional. The people were amazing. The way they played the game, just like nothing else I've experienced before, and I don't think I'll probably experience it again. John Whitworth asks, I'd be interested to know if you have any regrets. You're quite a controversial figure. People fall out on the internet as to whether your style or play is correct, legal, etc. Do you wish you could have maybe approached things differently? Do you mind being such a controversial figure? Or would I rather be viewed as family friendly? By the way, I think you're fine as you are, and these questions are respectfully asked. No, it's fair, mate. Perhaps when I did the sort of expose video on SSQ22 and the techniques used to promote by Novridge, and I named Airsoft Camman by name because he's doing affiliate links and paid promotion without declaring it, and I think he probably took it the wrong way. I regret naming him specifically because there's so many of them doing it. For example, Silo is terrible at it. Silo does it all the time with those Northridge products. They're paid products, placements, and he's not declaring it. So I stand by the fact that I spoke about it, but perhaps I shouldn't have just named Airsoft Cam Man because there's so many of them doing it. I should have either named none of them, or I should have just blown a load of them up, and I didn't. I just sort of used Airsoft Cam Man as an example. I didn't mean to call him out on it because he's not doing anything wrong as such. I just used him as an example of here's somebody who is doing an affiliate link, and this is how you can tell it's an affiliate link. So that's a regret. I regret only naming Airsoft Cam Man. I shouldn't have just named him. There were so many others I should have named, Silo being a prime example. And in terms of people falling out on the internet about whether my style is correct or legal, etc., mate, it's up to any. People can have decisions. They can discuss stuff. They can have opinions. I think when people start calling for me to be cancelled and banned from fields just because they don't like my videos or they don't like the fact that I'm posting videos of headshots, I think that's pathetic. But these are the places that ban me are places I don't go to anyway, so it doesn't affect me. But in terms of being a controversial figure, everyone's entitled to an opinion. I don't care that people have an opinion. People should have opinions. What I don't like is when people use dehumanizing language and otherization, and they try to, and also the lies. People shouldn't spread lies, and I think the community within Airsoft allows these people to spread lies, which I think there's a lot of weak people in the Airsoft community. Do I mind being a controversial figure, or would I want to be family friendly, sugar coated? Mate, I'm me. As long as you're happy in yourself, and I know how I play the game is the right way, it's within my own moral framework. I don't feel I do anything wrong, and I just post what I do onto YouTube, and it attracts some attention. And some people like to virtue signal, and they like to be Airsoft justice warriors about the whole thing, don't they? It's tough. Don't like it, don't watch it. Michael asked if I strictly shoot airsoft weapons or do I shoot real firearms. I have shot real firearms quite a few times. Honestly, I find shooting targets boring. I prefer the thrill of using airsoft and moving targets and targets that shoot back at you. Doug asked, what drives me to keep going every single day despite the haters? I don't see the haters, mate. They pop up sometimes in comments, but I really just ignore them. What drives me is my passion. I love doing what I do. I love playing the game, and I love making videos and sharing it with you guys. And if you love doing something, keep on doing it. What scope camera do I use? I use a Runcam Scope Cam 2 4K. Really rate it. I think it's a good, reliable camera. I get on really well with it. Really good battery life, and that's reliability, battery life, really important for me. Jeff Steen asked, what is the favourite shot I've ever made? Probably the 115 metre shot in Spain. I did a re-edit of the gameplay from a few years ago, and I posted it up on YouTube just last week, and that features that 115 metre shot. Huge shot. I don't think I've ever hit anything that far since then. Bob Johnson says, as a senior wanting to enter the airsoft arena, what kind of gameplay would you suggest for me to increase my survivability odds? Ghillie sniping, mate. Just move slowly, get a good ghillie suit with good 360 camouflage, and play a forest game in the woodland, and you can move slowly, move quietly, and just be confident in your own camouflage, and you'll do well. Dan White asks, how do you go to games and still have a good time knowing those jealous people out there that hate how good I am? Dan, in life, mate, life is a very fine balance between giving a fuck and not giving a fuck about what people think about you. You've got to be confident in yourself, confident that you know what you're doing is, you enjoy it, that it's right, and it's important to care about people, but it's also important to not give a shit about what they think about you. That's a fine balance, and I think I've been lucky that I've had that skill in my life from a young age to be able to both care and not care at the same time. Strength of character. And it doesn't matter what people think, does it? What does it matter what people think about you? As long as you enjoy what you're doing, that's all there is in life. Because here's the thing. When I'm dead, and those trolls are dead, I'm still going to have videos out there. In 50 or 100 years' time, people are still going to look at that YouTube channel, and those videos may well still pop up as a piece of history, and people will still be able to enjoy it. When I'm gone, people will remember my gameplay. They're never going to remember the person who moaned about them. Fuck them, be yourself, enjoy yourself. and I hope you all have a wonderful 2024. Thank you very much for the support this year. Without your support, I wouldn't be able to do what I do, be able to travel around the world, travel to these amazing fields, and enjoy doing what I love doing and turning it into content for you guys to watch. So thank you very much. It's been a great year. I appreciate all of you. See you in 2024. Take it easy.